Yes. Now we have the recording. So we are now in the 13th session. And so far, in the last bit, we saw how the individual appears to be a mix of Atma and Anatma, a mix of Satyam and Mithya. However, when we inquired into the Mithya Vastu, it revealed that Satyam alone exists. When you inquire into the snake, you realize that the rope alone exists. And the author concluded the topic of Atma by saying, Evam Sachidananda Swarupam Swatmanam Vijaniyat. May you know yourself as this Atma, which is the Rupam of Sachidananda, the eternal, all-pervading, invisible inner essence I, which is Sachidananda. So with it was said that you are the Sat principle, the absolute existence, the Kalatreya Pitishtati Sat, that which is there before the existence, during the existence, and even after what is seen. Like, for example, when we saw the clay and the pot, you are this Chit, this absolute consciousness. You are that illumines everything else. If in Katha Upanishad it is said, Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kuto yagni tvameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya vasa sarvidam vibhati. Those of you who are familiar with Shivananda Ashram would know this mantra very well. This mantra is chanted when? Can you tell me?
At the time of Arati.
Correct. This mantra is always is chanted at the time of Aarti. And I don't know if you know the meaning of it, but it's kind of poking fun at ourselves a little bit. Because this mantra says this Brahman, which cannot, that the sun cannot illumine, nor can the moon, nor the stars, lightning cannot illumine it. And yet here I stand with this small mortal flame trying to illumine this Atma. So everything shines because of that Atma alone, which is self-illuminating. It is by the light of this Atma that everything else is revealed. It is that absolute consciousness because of which everything else is revealed, and Shastra is telling you, you are that. So recognize that consciousness as yourself. Recognize yourself also as that Ananda principle, the bliss born out of the knowledge of your Purvartam nature. When you recognize that you are Purna, you are complete, there is nothing left to be desired. You will enjoy the Mithya Vastu knowing that they're only reflecting the bliss within you. And when they are not there, you simply tap into your Atmananda. With this, 2 of the 5 key topics of Tattva Bodha were completed. Can anyone tell me what those 2 topics were?
Sadhan Chatushta and Vyashti.
Absolutely. Very good. So now we are entering into the 3rd section, which is the Samashti Vichara, the study of the creation, the study of the macrocosm. So this next, I mean, it's not in the PDF we've given you, we've divided into chapters, but Tattva Bodha itself actually doesn't have chapters. So it says Ata Samashti Vichara. So as we move from the Vyashti to the Samashti Vichara, we've actually already given away the plot, right? So we told you how the essence of the micro and the macro that we looked at are the same. The essence of the wave is the same as that of the water. The essence of ocean is also water. And hence, in the essence, the wave and ocean are the same. However, just like we have certain misconceptions, certain questions about the macro, this jiva, about the micro, the jiva, we also have the same about the macro, about this creation we see and what we call God or Ishvara. So we must now inquire into that. So you can unmute yourself to repeat after me now. So you might hear me coughing quite a bit. That's why I'm trying to drink something to ease that. Ata chaturvimshati
chaturvimshati
tattvoutpatti prakaram
tattvoutpatti prakaranam
vyakshamaha.
Vyakshamaha.
So, I'll meet you all again. The author says, Ata, that is, after the completion of these two major topics, we will enter the third topic, Utpatti Prakaram, the method. Prakaram is the method of Utpatti, of creation. So, Chaturvimshati Tattvam, the entire cosmos is called Chaturvimshati Tattvam because the scriptures divide the whole universe into 24 basic principles. This itself we will discuss later, but for now, it's enough for you to understand that when we say Chaturvimshati Tattvam, we just mean it's the same as Jagat or Prapancha, this whole universe. And the author then goes on to talk about the creation of the universe, right? And Vyakshama means we will teach. Again, the author is saying we, not I, clarifying that once again that this is not his own teaching. This is a teaching that he received from his guru, that this teaching has the backing of the entire Guru Parampara. Then reading the next phrase, Brahmashraya.
Brahmashraya
Tattvarajas-tamo gunatmika Maya asti.
Maya asti.
So as intelligent beings, we have a natural curiosity to know about how this world, this creation came to be. We assume that it was created and hence also assume that there is a creator. Why do we assume that? Because it fits with our experience and understanding of things thus far. Whenever I see something special, something which doesn't grow on a tree or found in nature, like a beautiful painting or a sophisticated piece of machinery, I know that there was a creator of this object, an intelligent creator. And I call this object a creation. So since this body and this world seem intelligently put together, we naturally assume that there is an intelligent creator. And we give various names to this intelligent creator, God, Ishvara, and so on. And as intelligent beings, again, we naturally inquire into who this God is. The intelligent creator is called Nimitta Karanam in Shastra. So it can be translated in English as the efficient cause. So for any intelligently put together object that we see in the universe, the intelligent creator of that object has the knowledge of how to create that object, right? So the potter knows how to make a pot. The watchmaker had the knowledge of how to put a watch together. Each of them have a limited knowledge though. The watchmaker might not be able to make the pot, or the pot maker might not be able to make the watch. God or Ishvara, on the other hand, who made all this that we know and also the things we know nothing about, hence must be all-knowing, Sarvagnya. This is a fair assumption. Additionally, the creators of all these objects had access to appropriate material to make the object. So Shastra calls this appropriate material Upadana Karanam. That is the material cause. So in the making of a pot, the potter is the Nimitta Karanam, the efficient cause, and the clay, the material which was used is the upadana part, the material cause. However, unlike in the case of the potter, unlike in the case of the potter or the watchmaker, there was no material lying around somewhere for Ishvara to use for the creation of this universe. Because the very definition of this Sarvakarta, the creator of everything, it is implied that there would have been nothing else before this creation. Shastra talks about even the creation of space. So we must accept that that Ishvara created this world from himself. The material cause in the creation of the universe is also Ishvara. At first, this might seem a bit scope of our general understanding of things, but Shastra will give us two examples to digest this better. So one famous example which is commonly used is the spider and the web, right? So we know that the spider creates the web out of itself. Unlike, say, a weaver bird, when it's making a nest, it uses outside material. The spider's web has no material outside itself. The web comes out of the spider and it again resolves back into the spider itself. So this particular example is given only to illustrate how the nimitta karanam, the efficient Okay, can you hear me now? Hello? Can you all hear me now?
Can't see you.
Oh, okay. Can't see me.
Yes. Okay, got it.
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, I think maybe there was a power cut or something. Thank you. So we were on the example of the spider and the web. Again, frozen. Okay. Let me check my internet connection. Now I think it should be back.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you, Spandana ji.
Okay, thank you very much for your patience. Yes, so you're talking about the spider example. And I was saying, I don't know how much of that you caught, but I was saying how the spider example is given in Shastra to illustrate how the nimitta karanam and the upadana karanam can be one and the same. Like the spider weaves the web out of no other material but itself. And even when the web is resolved, it goes back into the spider itself. For this particular illustration, we use this example for the other reasons. Shastra also gives us the dream example, right? So the dream example helps us understand how the effect can also be the cause. How the created Jagat is the cause of the creator. Shruti proposes that there are no two causes, only one. He or she desired, may I be many. So when you dream, where does that dream come from? It's all your knowledge. The material of the dream the material of the dream world is inherent to you. It's not different from you. So the creator you of the dream pervades that creation, your dream world, which has come out of yourself. And you take part in that dream, forgetting that you are forgetting who you were as the waker and identifying with that dream self. So similarly, this creator pervades the creation which has come out of himself. Except in the case of Ishvara, he doesn't forget that he created this universe that we will come to later. So to explain this, how the creator pervades the creation, there is a beautiful Purusha Suktam from the Rig Veda. It says, Purusha Vedagum Sarvam Yad Bhutayaccha Bhavyam Utamritattvasya Seshanaha Yadannenati Rohati. So it says the Purusha is indeed all this, in a sense, that which existed in the past and that which will exist in the future. Everything, the whole creation is woven by the immortal essence of the great Lord, Purusha. By becoming food of which, that is, by getting consumed in whose immortal essence through surrender, one transcends the gross world and becomes immortal. So many people think that a miracle or a divine experience is, having some kind of transcendental experience where you see Brahman or you see Ishvara. But the real miracle is actually everything that we see. We are looking at the sun every day, not realizing that we are looking at Ishvara. Right? So we are looking at everything that you see behind me. I don't know how much you can see, but the lake, the mountains, they're all Ishvara. They are made of nothing other than Ishvara himself, just like the whole dream is just you. What kind of you? The knowledgeable you. Your own knowledge is manifest in form of that dream world. In the dreams, in your dreams, there are sentient beings, right? There might be other people, there are animals, but there are also inert things like trees, mountains, buildings. But it is your knowledge alone which is manifest in both the inert and the sentient dream world. Similarly, everything now that you see around you in this Jagat, both the inert things and the sentient things, Shastra is now telling you that is Ishvara alone in manifestation. When Hindus worship the Surya Devata, we are not worshipping the inert sun phenomena, but through that phenomena, we worship Ishvara. Just like that, every symbol becomes a form of worshipping Ishvara in a particular aspect. It is often wrongly said that in Hinduism, many gods are worshipped. Shastra tells us actually that there are not many gods. There is no even one God. There is only God. And this God, this Ishvara, is the Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. Binna means separate and Abhinna means not separate. So Ishvara is this not separate cause, which is both the material cause and the efficient cause. Ishvara hence is both he and she, both father and mother of this universe, of everything. So let's look at the verse itself, which is talking about Brahman and Maya. The verse says, Brahmashriya, with its being in Brahman, or blessed by Brahman, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, Gunatmika, endowed with these three gunas of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, Maya Asti, Maya is. So we can talk about the three gunas a little more in some time. So, but for now, we'll continue with the verse. So for now, understand gunas as qualities. I think most of you do know what gunas are. So Brahma has the Shakti, a power to create, and that power is called Maya. But let's also recall a few principles that we already talked about before. So if you remember, we said, and most of you studied this in school in science as well, that anything that originates must be existing before the origination in unmanifest form, right? That principle of matter cannot be created or destroyed, can only change from one form to the other. Same with energy. So before the tree or the baby came to be, it existed in some other form, the seed or the fetus, and before that in another form. So strictly speaking, saying God created the world is an unscientific and illogical statement. Why? Because the world can never be created because of that law. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. So the world was never created. We're not, because it was already there in another form, in a potential form. So when we speak of the creation of the universe, we are actually talking about the manifestation alone of the universe. And when we talk about the destruction, pralayam, of the universe, we are talking about the universe going back into an unmanifest state. Just like before the dream came, before your whole dream universe was created, there was sleep, laya. So the individual sleep is called laya, and the cosmic sleep is called pralaya. Like the body in potential form, we had a name. Does anyone remember what that name was?
Karan Shariram.
Very good. So just like the jiva had a karna shariram, this world also has this world has a name of potential form of karana prapancha or avyakta prapancha, and it is also called Maya. So before this universe existed, before this universe that is manifested, there were two principles. One is Brahman and the other is Maya. Brahman is the consciousness principle and Maya is the material principle. Both always existed and both are said to be beginningless, anadi. Maya is simply the unmanifest form of the universe. It's also known as avyaktam, prakriti, or shakti. Like karana shariram that we talked about at the jiva level, this is also beginningless. While we are talking of Maya as separate, you have to understand that it doesn't have an independent existence by itself, right? So it is a dependent principle. This we must be very clear about. So hence the author in this verse says Brahmashraya, which means with the blessing of Brahman, dependent on Brahman. The verse says Brahmashraya, but here the author is actually talking about Brahman, not Lord Brahmaji. So when we talk about Lord Brahma, of the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, just to remove any confusion, we'll say Lord Brahmaji. As we saw before, anything which has only a dependent existence is mithya. Maya is mithya. Brahman, on the other hand, has an independent existence. Brahman is Satyam. So certain depictions talk about Brahman and Maya as Shiva and Shakti, right? Brahman as Shiva and Maya as Shakti. It is a romanticized depiction, a symbolic representation, and it must not be taken literally as Brahman being male and Maya being female, because the Brahman we are talking about is nirguna, is without any attributes. So we cannot give any attributes like male to Brahman. Maya, on the other hand, has attributes and is called Trigunatmika. So the author says Sattva, Rajas, Tamo are the three gunas of Maya. Everything that we see in nature is of these three gunas. So let me see if I can share something. So we talked about the three gunas very briefly at the end of one of our classes, but we'll talk about it again because this is where it's coming in the text, right? So everything that we see in nature is made of this tamoguna, tamas, rajas, and sattva, right? So tamas is basically the dullness, the inertia, or the stationary quality. It is, but it must not be taken necessarily as negative, because without tamas, we would never be able to sleep. So tamas is very necessary for that. And rajas is the activity, motion. It is what enables us to move and do things. And it is what sets things into motion. And this is what helps us go around the world and achieve the different things that we want to achieve. And sattva stands for purity and calmness. And it is the nature of a calm mind. Without sattva, we will never be able to relax. It will never be calm. We will always be very agitated. So when you're looking at the mind itself, with these three qualities, remember that everything always has all these three qualities, right? So any object can be predominantly sattvic or predominantly rajasic or whatever, but it will have some bit of all three. And these three qualities are constantly changing. And if you look at your own mind, so you will have these different qualities in different proportions, and it'll be changing through the day. When it's time for bed in the night, you will probably experience more tamas, because that's what you'll be sleepy. And if you go to bed at that point, you'll fall asleep very quickly, right? So your mind is predominantly tamasic at that point. And we often suggest to meditate at Brahma Mutra, because these are the times your mind is predominantly sattvic. So tamas, when in the mind, shows a dull mind. Sattva in the mind shows a calm mind, and rajas shows an extroverted mind. So tamas has the ability to hide awareness, which is why it's not the best idea to try meditate or listen to Vedanta when you're feeling sleepy or tamasic. Tattva reveals awareness. And rajas also has the ability to hide awareness. How? Because if your mind is too rajasic, too in motion, you're having too many different thoughts, you will not be able to, the mind will not be able to reflect this awareness. So even rajas can hide awareness. So tamasic mind is dull, sluggish, lazy, and prone to depression. In a sattvic mind is present, wise, happy, and free from desire. A rajasic mind, a heavily rajasic mind is prone to anger, anxiety, frustration, aggression, or even boredom, which is why we kind of we keep saying for a spiritual aspirant, it's useful, conducive to increase the amount of sattva guna in yourself. So continuing here, it also says that when the mind is predominantly tamasic, the fear interprets your experience of the world. And when your mind is predominantly sattvic, truth is allowed to interpret the experience of the world. And when your mind is predominantly rajasic, desire interprets experience. But this is also why rajas can be a great motivator to accomplish things in the world. But sattva is required for proper discrimination, which is essential for Vedantic study, for the self-inquiry. Like I mentioned, the slide is saying now that tamas also allows one to rest, but it hinders self-inquiry. Sattva facilitates self-inquiry, and rajas also hinders self-inquiry because of the things we mentioned. So in this particular slide, I just put what's necessary. It's about things about the mind is being talked about. But like I said, everything that is found in nature has these three gunas. So when you look at food, it can be predominantly tamasic, sattvic, or rajasic. So based on this, can you tell me what might be tamasic food?
Fried food.
Yeah, fried food.
Meat.
Yes, yes.
Onion and garlic.
Onion, garlic. Alcohol.
Onion garlic would be rajasic.
Yeah, it comes a little more. It has both qualities, but more rajasic. Yes.
Toxic.
Yeah. So basically, anything that makes you feel this dullness afterwards, right? So it could be fried food, like you said. It could be meat, because it takes much longer to digest meat, and it's also the energy of what that meat gives. Or it could also be not the food itself, but overeating. How do we feel if we overate at lunch? We will kind of want to go to sleep right after, right? So it can also be oversleeping can make you tamasic, right? So whereas like rajasic foods could be, a lot of chili, lot of like basically a lot of these spices in excess, a lot of even sourness and stuff could be rajasic. And there's a whole list of foods, if you search, you'll find which are rajasic. And sattvic food would be ideally freshly cooked, mildly spiced food would be considered rajasic. Predominantly vegetarian food is considered, sattvic. Predominantly vegetarian food is considered sattvic, right? So you can take that with any kind of activities that you do also. What are the kind of activities which would make you feel more rajasic?
Gymming.
Yeah, any kind of very active workout. Yes.
Too much talking.
Yes, too much talk. Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of activities would make you feel sattvic?
Prayer,
Serving somebody.
yogasanas,
Yes. Light asanas, meditation,
meditation,
right?
Service.
Service, yes. Listening to calming music. So even music can be any of these, right? So if I listen to very kind of depressing sort of music, it can generate more tamas. If I listen to very heavy metallic sort of music, it could generate more rajas. Depends. For me, it would generate tamas, I think, because I have a strong dvesha for it. And calming music could generate sattva. But having said all this, it's to understand we don't demonize any of these gunas, because all these three gunas are important, right? So without rajas, you won't be able to go do things that you need to in the world. And some are essential things like putting food on your table, supporting the people who depend on you, and so on. So, and tamas, without tamas, you'll never be able to rest, have some sleep. So all these gunas are important and they have their own place. But as spiritual aspirants, we can try to improve the ratio of sattva guna, especially in our mind. And the easiest way to do that is through looking at all the things that we consume, not just the food, but all the impressions that we consume. Any questions on the three gunas or anything else that we talked about?
Spandanaji, you mentioned that all three gunas are important. Yes, because they have different roles to play in our life.
Yes.
But like if as a spiritual aspirant, we should be increasing sattva. I mean, isn't that so? Because then that is why I think I have only experienced it a little. Like I have when I increase my practice and I start getting up at 4 o'clock, maybe my sleep also becomes less. So I need less tamas to give myself rest.
Absolutely. So that also I mentioned that for a spiritual aspirant is definitely very conducive to increase the amount of sattva.
Okay.
So, is there a circadian rhythm for manifestation of these gunas?
Circadian rhythm?
Yes.
So for sure, it's Ayurveda will talk about a lot of those things, right? So you rise with the sun, go to bed with the sun, if possible, like basically early to rise and early to bed would be the ideal sattvic thing to do. I mean, a lot of people say they function better at, they can work better at night and things like that, but it's more a question of habit. It is shown even in health sciences that people who work too much in these night shift and have their sleep cycle disturbed because of these reasons, their health tends to suffer a little bit.
Spandanaji, I had a question about Prakriti and the Maya. Maya, you mentioned.
Yeah.
It is made up of three gunas, you said, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
It's basically has to be understood like it's like three braids of a plate of choti, right? So it's not, if you ask what is the choti, the plate, it is the three strands. It doesn't
so
exist.
Maya is not.
Maya is basically.
It is not beyond the three gunas.
Yes.
It is within the three gunas.
Yes, it's like the 3 strands.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, if there's no more questions, we can continue. Sorry. So like I said, these like 3 strands of a braid, these 3 guna shaktis belong to Maya. Brahman itself is nirguna, without any gunas, and nirvikaram, unchanging, versus Maya, which is constantly changing. So out of the combination of Brahman and Maya, this creation evolves. Brahman simply blesses Maya by its presence. The evolution is a kind of transformation, and hence it cannot be attributed to Nirvikara Brahman. It is attributed to Maya. But like the electricity, by its mere presence, can make a defibrillator work, the medical instrument which is used to shock a heart which is stopping. And the same electricity can also power an electric chair, which can take someone's life, right? So when we say Brahman is akarta, we mean from this point of view that just like the electricity by its mere presence can make anything function, Brahman is simply there because of which everything functions. So all the world we see is a manifestation also of Maya. And Maya has 2 main powers. We talk about the Vikshepa Shakti and the Avarna Shakti. When we say Vikshepa Shakti, it is the projecting power of Maya. And when we say Avarna Shakti, it is the veiling power of Maya. So it is the Vikshepa Shakti because of which, in your dream example, the Vikshepa Shakti is what creates all that dream universe. And the Avarna Shakti, the veiling power, is what makes you forget that you were the waker and you identify with the dreamer. So in Advaita, we are told that this world is simply an appearance. The world is projected because of the Vikshepa Shakti. And the Avarna Shakti makes us forget that this world is an appearance. And it's only, so the only difference here though, between Jiva and Ishvara, one of the differences is that we, the Jiva, are under the influence of this Avarna Shakti and we forget, we're trying to remember right now, but Ishvara is not affected by Avarna Shakti. So when we say Ishvara in Vedanta, you can basically think of it as Brahman plus Maya, right? So for Ishvara, the Vikshepa Shakti is available in full measure, but the Avarna Shakti doesn't apply like I said. So what is moksha then? Moksha is waking up from this ultimate dream where this jnani, an enlightened person who's awake from this ultimate dream, will still have Vikshepa Shakti continuing. So they will still be able to see things of this world, interact with people of the world, right? But they will all know that it is just Maya. And imagine if you woke up from in between your dream, you woke up and realized it was a dream, what kind of fun you could have with it. Say there was a dream tiger chasing you in that dream, that tiger no longer will have a capacity to scare you. Maybe you'll make friends with that tiger and go on a ride on back of that tiger, right? So that is how it is for a jnani who wakes up to the ultimate reality. They can still interact with this world, but they can appreciate it as everything as this manifestation of Ishvara. And as Vedantic students, that's what we must start doing now. Like we said, it's not in this journey, it's the same as how the hungry man will start getting satiated as he starts eating. Right? He doesn't have to finish the entire meal to enjoy the benefits of that hunger getting satiated. And so it is on this journey. You can start enjoying the benefits right now. You can start appreciating everything you see as a manifestation of this divine. Also knowing that this divine is you. So when we worship any of these deities now, you can still have your Ishta Devata. You can have your favorite gods that you like to worship. But remember that what you're worshipping is a particular manifestation of that power, that phenomena that that deity represents, which is all blessed by Brahman. Any questions?
I have a question, Sandhanaji.
Yes.
You mentioned, you gave an example of the electricity being used for different purposes, and
Mhm.
uh, I mean, you can do destructive and constructive things with it.
Right.
So in this case, like electricity doesn't, it is not a sentient being. It doesn't have a choice.
Mhm.
Because it's just an instrument which people can use for destructive or constructive purposes.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
then we compare it to Ishvara, that Ishvara also, because of the presence of Ishvara, or everything happens, good or bad. So,
Mhm.
but are these, I mean, because Ishvara is the ultimate, the, it has all the intelligence, the supreme intelligence. So, is it right to say that Ishvara is allowing this conscious, I mean, himself to be used
Mhm.
for good or bad? Can we
So
use
all examples
this
have a
as a
particular
caramel
limitation,
example?
right? So you can also think of this, you can think of it as the sun. The sun does not discriminate on what it's shining on. It can shine in a dirty pot of water, or it can shine on a holy lake. It will illumine both of them. So some people might use that sunlight to do something productive, do something good. Someone else might use that sunlight to do something harmful. But the
Right.
sun shines equally. And similarly, you can also think of your dream. When this whole dream universe is created, right? It is when you wake up and how do you feel about the things in your dream? Like if something in your dream scared you, or you won $1 million in your dream, you don't wake up and expect to have that $1 million available to you. So in terms of why something is happening, we will again talk about it extensively in the karma portion, but we already referred to it, right? So why is this? What is the cause of this body, and also these experiences that we are having? This is the past janma
Right.
karma, right? So anything which comes
Right.
to us, we are the doer there. So Ishvara is just maintaining that order. It's allowing that law of karma to function.
Right. Right.
Spandanji, can
I think my
Can you
internet.
again explain Vikshaya?
Okay, now I think I'm back. Sorry. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, I was asking if you could explain again Vikshepa Shakti and Avarna Shakti.
Sure. So Vikshepa Shakti is the projecting power of Maya. It is, I mean, you can think of it like the word literally, you know. So in your dream, because of the power which that whole dream comes into motion, everything is projected out. That is the Vikshepa Shakti. And Avarna Shakti is the veiling power. You understand what I mean by veiling? Like a veil? It covers. So Avarna Shakti covers with ignorance, which is why in the dream you forget that you're dreaming. And similarly, as jivas in our waking state, we forget our higher reality and we identify with this body mind sense complex. That is that's the power of the Avarna Shakti, because of which is veiling, which is giving this ignorance. And the projecting power is because of which I'm able to see you all on the screen. I'm able to interact. So everything that you see is because of the projecting power. Anything that you experience is because of the projecting power. Is that clearer?
Got it. Thank you.
So someone asked in the chat, does that mean we worship ourselves? In the sense, yes, but be very, very careful and slow to make that leap. Because, yes, Shastra is telling you are Brahman, but so is everything else, and so is everyone else. So you don't worship yourself till such time you're able to accept that reality, till that becomes a reality for you. So if you worship, you're not worshiping this person, Veer, right? If you identify as that, then yes, that's what all the theistic religions would call blasphemy. So you can worship yourself, but be very clear, you know who the real self is. It's at that point you worship yourself. Does that answer your question? Any other questions?
So, Spandanaji, you said that Tamoguna, Rajoguna, Satvika, all of these are not necessarily good or bad, right? So, there are some foods which have different properties, like tamasic food, and you were specific that, meat probably is tamasic. So, is it okay to eat meat or no?
I mean, you'll have to answer that for yourself. Okay, in what sense? Observe for yourself how it feels. That would be so. Like we say, right? So in Vedanta Shastra, we don't talk about. There is no abstinence. Is always a falling away of things. That's ideal way to do it. Like, and you no longer desire something, and it falls away. That's real abstinence, and that can happen through viveka, through discernment of what is serving me and what is not serving me. So, and Shastra never gives you rules of you must do this, so you must not do this. But for sure, if you are interested in cultivating more sattvic practices, like say having a more vegetarian diet, you can definitely cultivate that by a short-term discipline. You can try, say, give up meat for a particular period of time as a discipline, and observe yourself, what's happening to your body at that point. How do you feel? More energy? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel more energetic? Observe all these things for yourself. And then after that, you'll probably be able to better decide for yourself if that diet is better for you or not. So I did eat meat till about 6 years ago, 5 years ago or something. And it slowly just fell away for me. I actually, in my case, I landed up on a vegetarian diet almost accidentally, because at that period I was traveling, and I was very much into health and fitness though. So everyone I was making friends with were led very healthy, active lifestyles. And so I was part of a lot of these particular yoga community and all at that point where I was staying. And I realized after 3 weeks that I was on a completely vegan diet accidentally, because everyone else I was with was vegan. And for me, my body never felt better. I felt like my digestion had never been, I didn't even know digestion could be that good. And then I naturally kind of just lost the taste for meat because of that. And yeah, so then it became also, so for me, the health and energy reasons came before spiritual reasons. Then of course, when you enter yoga and such, you also become more aware of the energetic aspect of things. But spirituality is basically, again, just, common sense. There is nothing which is prescribed in the scriptures which doesn't have a very good reason for it. So all these fasts that many of you keep, where you, during Navratri, for example, where you give up a particular thing, or you even fast all day, it's only useful if you do it with the right spirit, if you give that, you use your discernment at that point, and you but if you're like craving for that thing, you've given up the entire time, and as soon as your fast is broken, you go run to that thing, it would have lost the value of why you keep that fast. So yeah, just to summarize, whether something is good or bad, Shastra doesn't tell you. Shastra can tell you what is sattvic, what is rajasic, what is tamasic, and you have to pick for yourself based on your goals.
Thank you.
Yes, Shubhitaji, you want to ask something?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, great. So we can end the class there. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all for your patience
Thank
with
you.
my coughing and the
Spandanaji. Thank you. Om Tat
internet shaky sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Spandana. Thank you.